Today we're going to do lesson 1.5. We did 1.3 last time. 1.5 is solving linear inequalities. Last class we did solving linear equalities or equations. And so today we are solving linear inequalities. So it's a little bit different, but not really. If you want to solve them all exactly the same, you can still get the right answers. Before we begin, I would like to formally invite everybody to put their phones and electronics away. A lot of us struggle in math. We've had a couple years of pandemic, and so we've got to reteach ourselves a lot of things. So the best way to do that is to pay attention. Today, you will have enough time at the end of class that you can probably finish your assignment or get pretty darn close to finishing your assignment. And so I want us to get started. First, I want to review some of these things that are up on the board. To solve linear inequalities, we want to keep in mind some of the things that we've already learned. So here, this is how we show an interval. And when we have brackets, it means that we do include whatever point that is. And we have parentheses, it's like that circle. And if you break it apart, that open circle, it looks like parentheses. Also, all of this, and it says down at the bottom all the words. So the set of all x's such that x is greater than 0. Sometimes there's an extra little bit there, and it looks like this extra funny symbol. It'll say x's that are an element of all real numbers. Element kind of looks like a C with an E line in it. It's like if the letter E and the letter C got together and they had a baby letter. That's what that letter looks like. Y'all really don't have to know that because like I said before, that's all flair. It's all just extra things. For us and our purpose, as long as we know that this is some extra fancy mathy stuff, we're okay. This is mainly what we're looking at. This kind of describes where the numbers are. So all you got to know is that that's extra flair stuff, and that's about it. Down here, we're going to fill out this table, and we're going to fill it out on some things that we already know and kind of build on it. So what we already know is that when we were making our intervals, we looked at that circle, and sometimes the circle was open and sometimes the circle was shaded. So remember that sometimes the circle is open, sometimes the circle is shaded, or it could be a line that keeps going. And when it was solid or shaded, and so we think about that circle, if it's empty and you split it apart, that's the one that makes, and it could only be one side, it doesn't necessarily have to be both, but it's the one that makes the parenthesis sides. And the solid is what makes brackets when you're creating an interval. The next symbols that I want to put into this table are under the inequality part. And so we're just going to remind ourselves what these symbols look like and what they are. So we have that one and that one. So this is less than. And this is greater than. We can also have these symbols. So remember that when you have the flat line of your bracket, that's when you have the flat line under your inequality symbol. And that means either less than or greater than or equal to. So less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Also, one thing that we need to make the connection is that underneath our inequality symbol, if there's nothing there, then there's nothing inside of the circle. looking at this symbol, if we have stuff under the inequality symbol, there needs to be stuff in your circle. Here, included or not included, this just means, can you equal that number? If I say you have to be more than 52 inches to ride a ride, you can't be 52 inches. You have to be more than that. It doesn't include 52 inches. It has to be more than that. If it says clearance, your truck must be less than 11 feet tall, you can't be 11 feet tall. You have to be less than 11 feet tall to go underneath whatever it is. So when we have an open circle, it means you don't include that because it's either less than or greater than whatever that number is. So it's not included. And if you have a solid circle, that means you are included. So do we kind of remember this stuff? It's just kind of putting it all together, putting it in a chart again so we can remember. Before we get started solving, I want to remind you of a few things. So the first one that we're going to start with is bullet 3. So bullet 3 just says that we're always going to put the variable on the left side. We're going to put the variable on the left side. It's not technically wrong if the variable is on the right side, but you're highly likely more going to make a mistake when you go to graph if it's not. So we're going to put the variable always on the left side. And that shouldn't mess things up too much because y'all already know that if we have an answer, and this is back when we were solving, let's say that we were solving and we got that 4 is equal to x, because sometimes when we're solving, the variable ends up on the left and not, on the right. But we could always switch it and we could say, oh, okay, never mind. If you want the variable on the left, I'll say x is equal to 4. So that means the same thing. When we do inequalities, it's a little different because let's say that you end up with 4 is less than x, because sometimes that'll happen that you end up in the variable is on the right. But that's okay. We can fix it. And to fix it, we have to take the whole inequality and we have to flip it around. So to do that, we're going to flip the sign, make it face the opposite direction, and then we can flip the two things on the ends. So we can flip it to make it on the left. And so this doesn't change what you're saying. It doesn't change anything that you're saying. If I was going to talk about my height and your height, and I said that I am shorter than you, makes no difference if I say that, or you are taller than me. Same thing, right? So it doesn't matter which way you say it, but what we want to do is make sure we say it with the variable on the left. So on the second one, it's not really changing the way we solve. However, in the end, if you flip your inequality, if you flip the sides of your inequality, you need to flip the sign. So this is last. And sometimes when you solve, it's already on the left. You don't got to do anything. This is last. So this doesn't adjust how you solve it. It's just in the end, double check. Is it on the left? No. Okay, flip it. So the first bullet point, and I probably should have put these in different order, but I didn't, says, and this is the one and only way that solving inequalities is different than solving equations. Does anybody remember what happens when you multiply or divide by a negative. It's been a minute since we solved inequalities, but does anybody remember what you do? When you multiply or divide by a negative. When you multiply or divide by a negative, you have to flip the inequality sign as you do it. Okay, only if what you're multiplying or dividing by, so what you take across the inequality symbol, if you take a negative across the inequality symbol to multiply or divide, you will flip the sign. Down at the bottom, it basically says we solve them exactly the same. The goal is still to isolate the variable or get the variable by itself. The only difference is that we flip the inequality sign if we multiply or divide by a negative, and we make sure that your variable is always on the left side. So let's get started. The first one, I want you to try and solve this. It's not meant to be difficult. I want you to try and solve it. See what you get. You can't graph yet because I haven't taught you how, but all you're going to do is try and solve it. Solving this one, the steps are still the same. We're still going to use CLT, P's, MD, where these things go together, these, and then these go together. That may have been on last class's notes, so some of y'all might be like, what is that? But that's what we do when we go to solve. So we want to make sure that we take care of addition and subtraction first. So first thing we have to do is come over and subtract 13. I'm not doing anything with the inequality symbol. We don't do anything with it unless we multiply or divide by a negative, which I didn't. And I want to remind you that when you take your first test, it will be no calculator. So we really have to practice doing these without a calculator. And so it's okay if you're slow when you do these. We've got 25 minus 13. What do we get? 12. Very good. And my last step is to divide. 12 divided by 3. What do we get? 4. Graphing. You're going to have graphing inequalities on your very first quiz. This is, you want to put your phone away? This is really important. The easiest thing on the quiz is graphing an inequality, and I want everybody to get it right. It is too easy to not get right. If you get it wrong, you're going to be looking at your quiz and you're going to be talking with your friends, and then you're going to be mad at yourself because you're like, why didn't I do that right? That's so simple. So to take our solution, you can show your solution as an inequality. That's what I have now. Or you can show your solution graphically. And graphically, all we do, see how we've got all those little hash marks? Usually that's where we like put the numbers on the number line, right? Okay, we're not doing that. The only number we care about is the number that's in our answer. So we only have one number in our answer. We're only going to put one number on the number line. So the only number we care about is 4. Go put it wherever you want. Doesn't have to be in the middle. Don't put 0. Don't label all the other numbers. That gets too confusing. Just put the number from the answer. And again, it can be on any of them. It doesn't matter. You're labeling it. The next thing I do is I put a circle. So there's really 3 steps to graphing. You're going to put the number, whatever number is in your solution. You're going to put your circle and decide whether or not you shade it or not. And then you put an arrow. So there's 3 steps to graphing. So second step, we've got our circle. We've got to decide, do we shade it or not shade it? Why do you think we shade it? Yes. So anytime that there is stuff underneath the inequality symbol, you need to have stuff inside your circle. So let's go shade it. Once you've shaded it, now we have to draw an arrow. So the arrow is going to depend on that inequality symbol. And this only works if your variable is on the left. This is why I keep saying you have to put the variable on the left, put the variable on the left. So even if it isn't on the left, we'll put it on the left. It's because it makes graphing easy. So what you have to look at is whichever way that the arrow is pointing. So this arrow is pointing to the left. So if it's pointing that way, then we need to shade that way so that we can have an arrow. And if you have a pencil, you got to kind of shade it like you mean it, so that I can see on your number line that I'm shading on that side. And then you need to put a nice, clearly defined arrow. So this arrow right here is always going to match up with this part right here of your inequality symbol. They always match. So if your symbol is a greater than symbol, you point to the right. And so if you want to go back right here and give yourself a reminder that when you are less than, you shade that direction. And when you are greater than, you shade that direction. It all depends on which way that that arrow is or the inequality symbol is pointing. Also, I do not want you guys to second guess yourself. If you're doing a couple problems on the homework or whatever, and they all seem to be pointing in the same direction, that's not a big deal. I didn't put too much effort into deciding, oh, well, there's one problem that points to the left, so the next one should point to the right. It's all random. You might have several in a row that point to the same direction. It's not a big deal. The next problem that we do, first thing that we have to take care of is these parentheses. So to take care of the parentheses, I'm going to have to distribute. And for those of you that didn't listen to the video notes, I'm kind of reviewing some of the stuff that we did on the video for solving. So if I distribute negative 3x and then minus 15, I didn't do anything to the other side, so it all stays the same. At this point, I have to decide which side do I want the variable on. So I have negative 3x on this side and I have 5x on this side. You don't have to, but I strongly encourage you to always move towards the bigger one. So if I have negative 3 and I have positive 5, which one is bigger? 5. So it's going to be in your best interest, and it's going to be easier to solve a problem if you move this 3 over, because you'll be adding. Otherwise, you end up with a negative variable and you've got to flip the sign. So you don't want to deal with that. 5 plus 3, we get 8x plus 1. Now we're at a simple two-step problem. I need to get rid of add 1, so I will subtract 1 over here. And what's my last step? Divide by 8. And so I'm still not dividing by a negative number, so nothing changes. So I need to divide by 8. Negative divided by a positive will be a negative. 16 divided by 8 is 2. All right, I want to go to graph this. Yes. We're dividing. This is negative 16 divided by 8. So over here, I was multiplying by 8. So the inverse of multiply is divide. So I'm not subtracting 8, I'm dividing. The only way to separate it from the x is to divide. I want to go to graph it, but there's something I have to check, and it's part of my 3 things. What do I check last? Before you can graph it, the variable has to be where? On the left. Is the variable on the left? No, so we got to fix it. So to fix it, I'm going to flip the sign, and then I'm going to flip the stuff. So once the variable is on the left, you can box it. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to do my graph. So I'm going to put a -2, doesn't really matter where, I'm just picking right in the middle. I'm not going to label anything else. I'm going to put my circle. Do I shade it? No, there's nothing under the symbol, so there's nothing in my circle. And then when I shade it, do I shade to the left or to the right? To the left, the same direction as my symbol. So it has to be my symbol once the variable is on the left. So I can't go by this one. That's why you'll mess up if you don't make sure the variable is on the left. So for this one, it's pointing that direction, which is less than. So I have to shade on the side less than -2. So these will always match up. My last solving problem. I have to take care of the addition subtraction first. So I've got this 17 over here. I need to subtract 17. So I have 35 minus 17. And it's okay to be really slow because we struggle with this, but yes, it is 18. And then my very last step, I need to get rid of this multiply by -3. So I need to divide by -3. What happens when I divide by a negative? Flip the sign. So that sign needs to flip and face the other direction. I don't flip anything else. I just need to flip the sign. 18 divided by a negative is going to be a negative. 18 divided by 3 is 6. The variable is on the left, so I can box my answer. I'm going to graph this on my paper or my screen, and I want you to try and graph it on your paper. So don't look up until you graph it and check yourself. See if you can graph this one correctly. Did y'all get the same thing? Good job. Do y'all agree? Graphing is pretty easy. If you can get the answer, graphing is easy. Okay, I want everybody to get that question right on the quiz. Usually on quizzes, I am not the kind of like, gotcha teacher. I want you to know everything that's going to be on the quiz because I want you to do well. So you will have questions that are graphing. I want you to get those correct. And even if all you did was forget that you have to flip the sign, which is really the only difference, you can still do amazing on the quiz. Even if that you forget that part, you can still do amazing. If you did all of this, but you shaded in the wrong direction, you don't miss the whole problem. You miss like a point or two. That's not a big deal. So don't let inequalities scare you. They solve exactly the same. All right, we're gonna do a brain break. So I want everybody to stand. It's the end of the day. We're all tuckered out. We are tired of doing math and we want to go home. I'm really proud of you guys. If I didn't say it already, I'm proud of y'all for sticking around after the fire drill. That was very big of you. You could have just gone on home. Okay. The last thing that we're doing is really simple. It's just making inequalities. And y'all can always watch the video for the last few minutes. Good luck tonight. Do amazing things. So stand up, and I need to know who my people are. So I need you to stand, and you've got to make a choice. So you have to make a choice. Who are my people? So on the left, I need Chick-fil-A, and on the right, I need Whataburger. So I need to know who my people are.
No, you betrayed me, bro.
I agree. But if you had to choose, you have to choose. You have to choose. I think overwhelmingly every class so far has definitely been a little bit more heavy on the team Chick-fil-A than Whataburger, but I kind of agree with Brian that like this is a tough choice for me. I'll be real honest. Like I hate choosing favorites. My favorite color is rainbow. I don't really like favorites. I could pick either one of these, depends on which meal I'm getting, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Depends on, are we going burger to burger? Because Chick-fil-A doesn't have a burger. They just got a chicken sandwich. Is it chicken sandwich to chicken sandwich? Is it nuggets to nuggets? It's hard for me to even compare the two because they aren't straight up. But in any case, they're both pretty good, and I kind of needed to know who my people are. So now I know. You can go sit back down. That was a tough choice. That was a tough choice. But I heard somebody say, but that line is too long. The one thing I can say about the Chick-fil-A line is that they are a well-oiled machine. They get people through the line pretty quickly with a smile. Whataburger, I've been in the line. Whataburger, you finally get up there and they're all rude to you. Like, what?
The only thing good about Whataburger is that it's open.
They got good food. They got good food. But you aren't getting the same smile when you get your extra sauces from Whataburger. That's for sure. You are not getting the same smile. But I do like some Whataburger. But although I will say that the Stonehill Chick-fil-A, sometimes that one is insane when it wraps all the way around and you can't even find you had to drive around twice before you found the end of the line. That is a little bit much. So you can't really go to Chick-fil-A like during the rush time. So anyways, I just had to know. Now we've got our very last problem. Who really likes the word problems? The few of you that did your homework, did you struggle with the word problems? Yes. Okay, well, you and everybody else. So here's the deal. They're not going away, so we have to do them. But here's how you do them. You have to first read it, And then you read it again. And then you try and pick out some math symbols. And then you read it again. And then you might try to write it. And then you read it again. And then you rewrite it because you wrote it wrong. And then you reread it to see if it works. You reread it a gazillion times. So you've got to have some grit when you're working these problems. You cannot just look at it and be like, well, it's a word problem. I don't know how to do it. That sounds too confusing. You have to have a little grit. You got to read it and you got to read it again. You've got to at least try and pick out the symbols. Oh, it said quotient. That means divide. Oh, it said less than or equal to. I can put that symbol. So you've got to put some time. You can't just read it once and be like, hey, miss, can you help me with this? Because I don't know what to do. Well, I don't know what to do when I read it once either. So you have to put a little effort into doing these. And the more you do, the better you'll get. You're not good at everything without practicing. So we've got to practice these. They're not going away. So when I read through this one, it says 2 times the sum of a number and 4 is less than or equal to 15. Last class, when we did the word problems, the word that like stuck out, like I know what that word means, is the word is. This stuff is blah. Is meant, that's where the equal sign went. Wherever you saw the is, you could put an equal sign there because that's what went there. When you're reading these problems, it's the same cue that, hey, an inequality sign is coming up. So when you read through here, 2 times the sum of a number and 4 is less, is right there. When you see the word is, that means the inequality sign is coming. So when I look here, is less than or equal to, I know that symbol, I can jot it down, less than or equal to. And it even says less than or equal to 15. So I know 15 is what's going to go on this side. The reason I point all that out is because when you look at your assignment, question 12. When you look at question 12, it starts out with 12 less than. That less than does not mean the symbol. Okay, when you look at question number 12 on the assignment, that less than, when you see 12 less than, that does not mean the symbol. Okay, it would have to say 12 is less than, then it would be the symbol. So on question number 9, the symbol doesn't come until a little bit later at the very end. So don't be confused. You still have to look for that cue word is before you do your symbol. The other stuff. Okay, so I'm going to start reading through this side again until I figure out what it is. 2 times, so it's 2 times something, 2 times something. Okay, 2 times the sum of a number and 4. So we've got the sum of a number and 4. The sum of a number and 4 is, sum means adding. We have a number, you could call it whatever you wanted. It could be n, and then we have 4. So we have to be adding n and 4. That's what needs to go inside here, n plus 4. I could call that n, I could call it x, I could call it y, z, p, whatever you want. So I'm going to read it again. 2 times, so 2 times the sum, so that's adding a number and 4 is less than or equal to 15. I think that I got it. 2 times the sum, so I'm adding, of a number and 4 is less than or equal to 15. So I'm going to read it one more time because I'm going to make sure that it matches. So 2 times, so 2 times something, so 2 times the sum of a number and 4 is less than or equal to 15. Those can be exhausting and they can be deflating, but you've got to have a little grit and you can get through it. That is our first step. We have to write the inequality. The second step is actually solving it. So I'm going to rewrite it. Sorry, I called it N. Okay, so now I'm going to solve it. So when I solve it, the first thing that I'm going to do is distribute. So I will distribute the 2 to both pieces. 2n plus 8 is less than or equal to 15. Now I'm at a simple 2-step problem. I always have to take care of the addition subtraction first. So I'm adding 8. On this side, I must subtract 8. So I have 15 minus 8. What is that? 7. And my very last step is to divide by 2. You don't have a calculator. I hope that we could all divide that in our head. We know if we take $7 and we half it, we got $3.50. So I hope that you could half that, but I'm not asking you to. I want your answers as fractions. Pretty much, unless we're doing a real world problem, you're going to give me a fraction answer. They are more exact. We like fractions. That is it. It is 3:47. That means that you have plenty of time, 30 minutes, to attempt to finish your assignment. You should be able to finish your assignment in 30 minutes. How many problems is on this assignment? 10. You have enough time. If the part that you are most scared about is the word problems, then flip it over and do those first because you've got a room full of people to work with. And so what I want is for you to talk to the people around you before you come and ask me if you need help.